amazing, incredible kids. Like many of you, my kids are what I value most in this world. I remember when my first kid was born. I was 20 years old. My husband had just turned 21. He likes to joke that he got a baby for his 21st birthday, which is true, he did. So here we were with this tiny little fragile bundle representing all of our hopes and dreams. And we wanted for her what all parents want. They want their kid to have access to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we wanted her to have every freedom of choice because, as Dr. King said, a denial of freedom to an individual is a denial of life itself. Nothing hammers home the urgency of now, like looking into your precious little baby's eyes and knowing that you are responsible for demanding, protecting, and preserving her freedom. And so that was where my journey began of learning and strategizing and searching for a way to help build a better world. So like most of you all out here, I'm familiar with, some of the most aspirational words of Dr. King. But as I really got to know this man through a deeper study of his immense body of work, it became clear to me that that was only the tip of the iceberg. Dr. King was, in fact, a brilliant humanitarian policy tactician. His work extends far beyond the most recognizable sound bites to the creating of a masterful blueprint for strategic, transformational socioeconomic change. Since we are all joined together to celebrate his life and his legacy, I want to share a cornerstone of this blueprint with you today in many of Dr. King's own words. Many are aware that many are not aware, actually, that the official name of the 1963 march, where he delivered that famous I Have a Dream speech, it was actually the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Dr. King was not just fighting for a civil rights bill, but he was also fighting for legislation that guarantees every American a decent standard of living. He recognized that racism arose as an ideology to achieve and justify barbaric economic controls over the entire working class by pitting working folks against one another. In a speech to the Illinois AFL-CIO back in 1965, Dr. King said, "The two most dynamic movements that reshaped the nation during the past 3 decades are the labor and civil rights movements. Our combined strength is potentially enormous. We have not used a fraction of it for our own good or for the needs of society as a whole. If we make the war on poverty a total war, if we seek higher standards for all workers for an enriched life, we have the ability to accomplish it, and our nation has the ability to provide it." He recognized that the existence of poverty in a nation which has been built massive wealth on the backs of its workers, that is a political choice. Dr. King understood that what is good for Black families is good for all families. He stood shoulder to shoulder with any and every person willing to fight to ensure that all working people reap a fair share of the wealth created by their labor. In 1961, Dr. King spoke at the AFL-CIO annual convention, where he said, "Our needs are identical with labor's needs: decent wages, fair working conditions, livable housing, old age security, health and welfare measures, conditions in which families can grow, have education for their children, and respect in the community." He went on to say the labor movement did not diminish the strength of the nation, but enlarged it. By raising the living standards of millions, labor miraculously created a market for industry and lifted the whole nation to undreamed levels of production. Those who attack labor today forget these simple truths, but history remembers. So as we celebrate Dr. King in the coming days, I have an assignment for everyone. I want us all to pay attention. Pay attention and remember those in positions of power who co-opt his words while making decisions and taking actions that divest from history, from our dream. So while Dr. King was taken from us, his blueprint of how to make this dream a reality remains. And we will not stop fighting until America fulfills all of her promises. Our children deserve nothing less.
Right.
So Dr. King, we honor you, and we pledge to continue your work. Thank you.